Yo, what's going on, guys? Chris Bonner here, Overtime Athletes. If you're interested in vertical jumping, I got a free advanced series down below. Make sure you check it out. So for today's video, what I wanted to do was kind of make a little bit more comprehensive video for you guys that are trying to increase your vertical jump and the training phases or the ascension you essentially need to go through to be able to increase your vertical jump, right? Now, this is very specific to somebody trying to get more explosiveness out of their everyday movement, whether they're a basketball player who's trying to get a better overall, be able to dunk, or if you're just a football player or baseball player who wants more pop. This is the ascension that you need to go through each phase. So phase one is going to be all about biomechanics, right? And this is how your body's moved. If we have restriction in our movement and we eliminate that, we can essentially increase our overall performance, right? So if I'm not jumping properly, then I need to be able to fix that. So that's all about the biomechanics. So what we're addressing here is not only technique in the actual vertical jump, it's technique in all of your jumps, right? How you're moving. Is a knee caving in? There's various things. So really we're focusing on technique here. Stability. Do I have stability throughout all my joints, your ankles, knees, and hips, right? And then finally it's force absorption, teaching the athlete how to properly decelerate and absorb that force, that kinetic energy, as opposed to producing it. A lot of guys want to go out and just start jumping out the gym. You have to teach your body how to decelerate first, and that's all in phase one. So a lot of this looks like unilateral movement, a lot of biomechanical, a lot of technique, and a lot of stability where I'm teaching an athlete on that single leg. A lot of unilateral movement, like I said, and deceleration movement as well. Moving over to phase two. Now this is anywhere from 1 to 5 weeks. Moving over to phase two, we focus on more metabolic. So now that we have the technique and the stability, I'm gonna focus on work capacity. So the physical demands, we can increase the amount of work on the neuromuscular level. You're gonna do that through volume and repetition. Obviously through volume and repetition, when we increase that in this phase, we're going to see better motor patterns. And that's really what you're looking for. You learned them over here. Now, as we have the good technique, let's go ahead and beef up the volume so that the athlete can then essentially reiterate that movement pattern within their body. If it's somebody going to do a dunk, you're repping, you're repping, you're repping. If I'm jumping off one leg or teaching my body to jump off one leg, you're repping that motion simultaneously over and over again. Then we want to move to phase three. Now that we have the biomechanic restrictions out of the way, meaning I'm operating at a high level as far as my technique, we have our metabolic restrictions out of the way, so I'm not fatiguing, my body's not fatiguing. We can then move to neuromuscular. Neuromuscular is all about transferring over to what that athlete is trying to do, right? So if you're just trying to stand and have a higher vertical standing jump, you're gonna go ahead and start to focus on the force production of that. If you're an athlete that needs to play basketball and you wanna transfer your vertical jump, well, now you're gonna put yourself in resisted style motions or movements that are going to increase you on that one leg with the actual basketball in your hand. Or, if you're a combat fighter and you want to utilize all that power that you've been doing, so now I'm going to add a rotation component. Whatever we need to do to put that athlete in a setting where it's going to mimic the physical demand that they're going to face in their competition, we want to start focusing on that here. And that's kind of more what they call sport-specific training, of doing that in a resisted motion so we can transfer it over to their actual sport. Next, this is where power and coordination collide. We want to create as much efficiency within those movements as we possibly can. And we do that by focusing on the force production. So we've taught the athlete how to absorb force. We've repeated it with a lot of volume. We've ingrained it in their motor system. Now we're actually doing the money shots, right? The force production. It's all about that movement and getting the most capacity out of it, that concentric motion. So, like I said, it's producing the most efficient sport-specific movement that you possibly can at this time. So these are the phases. If you're looking at this from a vertical jump standpoint as, hey, I just want to increase my standing vertical jump, right here, just to give you a quick rundown, I'm learning technique. I'm creating stability through a unilateral leg, through a single leg, unilateral movements here, teaching my body to decelerate. Then I come over here, I'm repeating that motion over and over again. A lot of box jumps, a lot of squats, a lot of, you know, single leg box jumps, things of that nature. Now over here, I'm going back to transferring over to the movements that I'm gonna perform, or I'm actually performing the actual vertical jump test. Power plus coordination, like I said, you're gonna do movements, whether it be approach, single leg box jump. I'm actually doing stuff on the actual court that's focusing on the movements I'm going to mimic on the court. And then force production, that's all about that concentric movement. So you're performing squats or ballistic movements where you're focusing all on that all-out power. So I know this is pretty complex, but I guess this is more of a little bit for you coaches. For you athletes, I hope you guys were able to understand it. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll catch you next time.